I mean, okay, so basically, what?
Just a minute to start the recording. Are we ready to begin, Chair McClinton Horner?
Yes, we are.
Great. Wonderful, we're ready.
Okay, this meeting is called to order at 6:30. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes, Youth Commissioner Catherine Bitt,
Present.
Commissioner Barry Christian,
Here.
Commissioner Sean Hughes is absent, Chair Tara McClinton Horner,
Here.
Vice Chair Debbie Chavaria,
Here.
and Commissioner Nance Matson.
Here. Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment at this time for items not on the agenda.
Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment? And there is nobody online, so there's no public comment.
Okay, public comment is closed. Moving on to the first business item, the minutes of February 4th, 2026. Do I have a motion to accept?
No, I have a correction.
Okay.
I have a correction.
Okay.
On section 4, courtesy trail signage, it should be Chair McClinton Horner rather than Chair Matson. And I move,
I actually consulted with our city clerk about that, and we officially make the switch in the minutes beginning their first meeting that they
chair,
the
rather
first full
than
meeting
taking
that they
the
chair.
meeting they took over. Okay,
All
I
right.
make a motion then to approve the minutes of February 4th.
Okay, in a second?
Okay, just one second.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call, please. That exact thing happened last year, too.
Okay, so Commissioner Barry Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Sean Hughes is absent, Commissioner Vice Chair Debbie Chavaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Nance Matson,
Yes.
Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Yes. Okay, next item of business is to receive a presentation on the County Active Transportation Plan presentation for the Napa Valley Transportation Authority.
Well, good evening, Open Space Advisory Committee. Brent Cooper, Community Development Director, and I'm here tonight with our esteemed Public Works Director, Erica Smithies. And we are pleased to introduce Patrick Band from the NVTA, who will walk through the newly created Napa County-wide Active Transportation Plan. This plan will be adopted by the city as part of our general plan, and so we're really excited about that, and it shows the significance of these plans. There are older plans that this will replace, and so it's good to stay current. And with that, I will just introduce it over to Patrick, and he can tell you all about it.
Thank you very much. How do I get this going on your screens?
Our clerk will fix that.
Okay. I had that right ready to go, and I walked out of the house without it.
Hello, Nicole, are you? Is there something that we
Oh,
need to
I'm
do
sorry.
to?
No, wait, I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. There we go.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just probably
Push the buttons, the
are
arrows.
probably
And
easiest.
I love it. Thank you very much. Thank you all. My name is Patrick Band. I'm a senior planner with the Napa Valley Transportation Authority. I think you've heard from me a couple of times in years past. Presenting to you the new draft Napa Countywide Active Transportation Plan. As Director Cooper mentioned, this document, or the American Canyon chapters for this document, will be reviewed and adopted by the city to aid in incorporating and developing future active transportation projects, programs, policies, et cetera. So what is active transportation and why are we talking about it? Just kind of as a level setting slide here. So active transportation is any mode of travel that is generally not motorized. So it's walking, it's biking, it's somebody in a wheelchair, it's using a one wheel or a scooter or any of those new electric micro-mobility devices that have proliferated in the last handful of years. And why do we do the planning for this? We want to make sure that we're planning for the way that we want people to get around our communities. We want to make sure that we're aligning the investments that we're making in our streets and roads and trails and pathways with best practices as established by federal, state, regional guidelines. We want to make sure that we're incorporating changes in state law. A number of years ago when we had the 2016 countywide pedestrian plan or the 2019 bike plan, we didn't have new treatments and requirements under state law for things like daylighting, setting vehicles back from the curb to aid pedestrians in being able to see oncoming vehicles and vehicles to be able to see pedestrians. We didn't have class 4 protected bikeways. We didn't have prohibitions on where sharrows can and can't be in shared lane bike and vehicle facilities. We want to make sure that we're maintaining eligibility for grant applications and other sources of funding that the city or the county or NVTA or other agencies may pursue. We want to make sure we know where things are at and where they're supposed to be built. So we want to develop a comprehensive GIS or a mapping database of where are our facilities, where are our sidewalks, where are our streets, where we want future improvements to be located. And of course, we want to make sure that we're reflecting the needs and interests and priorities of the community as we're developing all of these recommendations. So that really is what a countywide active transportation plan is all about. We kicked off this process about 18 months ago and hired a consultant team led by GHD, an international engineering consulting firm. We spent a number of months collecting data, that mapping process, to identify where are our sidewalks, where are the existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities, and where do we want the new facilities to be. We did extensive community and stakeholder engagement, including presentations and events and other things in American Canyon, developed recommendations, and now we are at that little gold star section of plan completion. A little bit about the community engagement, because that's really why we're here, is to continue to engage the public and through the public, this commission. We engaged with nearly 2,000 individuals throughout the process of developing this plan. We held 2 in-person open house events, one in the city of Napa at Napa Valley College and a second one up Valley at the Calistoga Community Center in early 2025. We had a number of events, as I mentioned, in American Canyon. We attended all 3 of the last year's Meet Me in the Street events. We did a presentation to the American Canyon Planning Commission back in September of last year. We attended a number of school events, some career day events at American Canyon Middle School, for example, and over 30 total partner events and presentations. So a lot of kind of shoe leather worn out in the process of developing this plan. We had over 450 unique comments on the online maps that we developed to identify both where people were comfortable or not walking or biking within the existing built environment, where our streets and sidewalks are now, as well as comments on the recommended future improvements. Did people think this made sense? Is this the right place for a new shared use pathway? Or is some other kind of access and provision of access important? We had nearly 200 responses to an online survey that went out countywide. And the plan itself is organized into a number of chapters. And again, as Director Cooper mentioned, it's designed to be adopted by each local jurisdiction. So it's a countywide plan with individual chapters for each community. So one for American Canyon, one for Yountville, one for Calistoga, et cetera, et cetera. And it focuses on really 6 key goals: safety, equity, accessibility, and connectivity. This is about how we build out the network of bicycle and pedestrian improvements and why we do it. Sustainability, maintenance, and data and evaluation are kind of additional policies and goals that support those safety, equity, and connectivity goals by saying, we want to make sure that why are we doing this? We want to make sure that we're developing a sustainable transportation network. We want to make sure we're maintaining what we're building. We don't want to build out so many new streets and roads and pathways that we can't maintain them. And we want to make sure that we're continuously evaluating, are these the right investments to be making in our local communities? Because every dollar that our local cities and towns invest in is precious. So we have a countywide set of goals and objectives. We have a countywide policy framework, which I'll talk about a little bit later. We have a best practices toolkit to provide resources for members of the public, engineering professionals like Director Smithies over there, or advocates like the Bicycle Coalition sitting in the audience to look at and provide recommendations and opportunities to improve existing facilities. And as I said, we have those jurisdiction-specific chapters. So the countywide policies, very briefly, in the last pedestrian and bicycle plans in 2016 and 2019, which is a little while ago, we didn't have a really consistent framework for how all of our communities collectively were approaching the various challenges when we're talking about building out walking and biking pathways and facilities. So across engineering, education, engagement, encouragement, and evaluation, we wanted to kind of set a floor for how are all of our communities at a minimum approaching those challenges when it comes to getting people around safely. And then providing flexibility for local jurisdictions to adopt policies or new programs above and beyond that countywide floor that really reflect local priorities or unique characteristics of an individual community. So for example, the town of Yountville, doesn't have jurisdiction over the vet's home, but it's within their city limits. So they have policies that address how they want to work closely with the state of California that owns that property and manages that property. The city of Calistoga may have identified neighborhoods where, as good as sidewalks are, they don't want to invest sidewalks in those neighborhoods because the local residents have said, they don't want them in those locations. So things like that. I mentioned the treatment toolkit that provides, really clear guidance and contextual framing for what are the types of things that we can put in various locations. So that's, where are bike paths versus a bike lane? What's the difference and which one's appropriate in what kind of location? Intersection improvements. Intersections are often one of the most challenging locations for getting around a community. We just think about Highway 29 going through American Canyon. And it's pretty easy to go north-south in town, whether you're on the east side or the west side, but crossing 29 can be a big barrier. So this toolkit provides various recommendations and opportunities to improve those intersections. Traffic calming vehicles, slowing them down so that everybody can access the roadway in a manner that is safe and accessible. Providing guidance on sidewalks, how wide should they be, as well as maintaining existing facilities. We did a pretty extensive needs assessment to identify, what is, again, the right type of recommendation to make for each street. We used a bicycle level of traffic stress analysis to evaluate for a given roadway, what are the vehicle speeds? How many cars are using that road on a given day? Are there any sidewalks? Are there any bike lanes? To establish, how comfortable is it for somebody to ride a bike on that road. So one of the things we know is that about 50% of the population, are interested but concerned when it comes to riding a bike. Yeah, I'd like to ride a bike, but it's a little scary out there. So that's really the target audience that we're looking at with this plan, is to identify how can we improve our existing road network to make it safer, more comfortable, more convenient for people to choose walking or biking. This is a big table, which we don't have to go into in detail, but if you have questions, please feel free to ask, that looks at low stress connectivity. So if you're going to, let's say, for example, City Hall, what percentage of key origins, places where people live, can access City Hall on an existing low stress network. So basically what this means is that the higher that percentage number on the right-hand column, the better. That means more people in our community can access those destinations on a low stress, safe, comfortable roadway. Lower numbers, obviously worse. So you'll see, kind of halfway, 3/4 of the way down the bottom, we've got Walmart, we've got Kimberly Park, that are at that kind of 0 or 0.1 number, which means it's really stressful to get to that destination on a bike. And that makes sense. You know, Highway 29 is not a particularly comfortable place to ride a bike. And so the goal of this plan, again, is to provide recommendations for improvements to our street network to rise that number up a little bit so that more of our population, more of our community can get to those destinations on a low stress corridor. Do you want to do questions now or wait till the end?
I have a question on this specific. Are these self-reported from surveys, or are they
No,
an
this
analysis?
is actually a data-based analysis. So what we did is we took every single identified key destination in town. So that's parks, that's government buildings, that's key retail destinations, it's medical offices, places where people want to go, schools, obviously, and we put a dot on a map for those. And then we looked at, based on the street network that we have today, and based on that level of traffic stress analysis that I talked about a little bit earlier, what percentage of the population, with a little dot for every single house, every single apartment in American Canyon, what percentage of those residences can access that destination on a low stress network?
Got it. Thank
So
you.
generally, again, Highway 29, really high stress corridor, not something that's super comfortable for people to walk or bike on. So that's a barrier. So generally, that's also why we see none of these numbers on that right-hand column are above 50%, because Highway 29 serves as a barrier for basically half of our community in American Canyon. And other streets will do the same thing. You know, American Canyon Road can serve as a barrier north-south because it is, you know, higher volumes, higher speeds, things of that sort. That's not to say that we're going to take out a road, but it's what are the improvements that we can make as a community to provide alternate connections, to improve the safety of intersections, so that people can get to where they want to go in a safer, more comfortable, lower stress context.
Thank you.
I have a question. So obviously, like, you know, the closer to 0, the better. But is there like
Closer
a
to
number?
100% is better.
Oh, closer to 100.
Yeah,
Okay.
so higher is better.
Is there a number that is like a trigger or a warning level?
So I would say that, again, this is more of a framing kind of slide. The intention here is to identify where are those destinations that are important to the community that we may want to prioritize when we're looking at how can we spend dollars that we might have available, whether it's pursuing grant funding or, you know, city general fund or other sources, to say, you know what, it makes a lot of sense for people to be able to safely access City Hall or safely access Walmart or Donaldson Way Elementary. You know, fortunately, Donaldson Way Elementary, we're getting 32.6%, which is relatively high for the community. I think it's actually the highest on this list. So that's a really good sign. So there's not a threshold, there's not a cutoff where, okay, below this number and we're flashing red lights. It's more of a, you know, how do we want to use this information to prioritize future investments?
Thank you.
So let's talk about our existing bike network. You know, what do we have out there on the roads right now? So that orange row is American Canyon. And we've got, you know, in 2019, when the last countywide bicycle plan was done, we had about 13 miles of existing bicycle facilities, whether that's a shared use pathway or a bike lane. And in 2025, when we did the data collection, we were up to 18.8, so pretty big jump. So 18% increase between 2019 and 2025 in terms of total numbers. And that's actually the highest of all of the jurisdictions in Napa County. So a little pat on your back for that work. But again, that's not to say that we're where we want to be, right? So there's a lot more work to be done. It just means that American Canyon's moving along a little faster than some other communities in the valley. So what is, in terms of the types of facilities, and I know we've talked about this, I think at prior presentations, and I'm sure other presentations you've heard, you know, what is a shared use path? It's like the Vine Trail, right? A pretty wide separated pathway that doesn't allow for cars. Bike lanes, you know, on the street, a dedicated space on the shoulder usually for bicyclists to use. Bicycle routes is a shared roadway where bikes are riding in the vehicle travel lane effectively. And then we have an unclassified bike routes, which is often unpaved trails or gravel pathways that provide some benefits from connectivity, but don't meet the state's classification for what is a class 1, what is a class 2, things like that. So that's how we get to that 18.8 miles number.
What's the difference between a buffered and a bicycle route? They're both class 3s? Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's 2 and 3, sorry.
Class 2s, yeah. So
Sorry.
that's a really good question. So
Yes.
a traditional class 2 is basically just a stripe on the shoulder of the road that identifies bikes over here, cars in the vehicle travel lane. A buffered class 2 adds a little bit of room between that. Usually it's about 2 feet or so. So additional striping on the roadway. Often it's hashed marked to kind of provide a, hey, nobody goes in this space, but it provides horizontal separation between bikes and vehicles. So that can make it more comfortable for people to ride a bike by creating more separation between where those cars driving and where our bicyclists riding their bikes.
Great,
And
thanks.
then above and beyond that could be what's called a class 4, which is a fully separated or often called a protected bikeway, which involves some kind of vertical element, a bollard or a curb or some other kind of separation that's actually physical other than just paint on the roadway between bikes and vehicles. So this then gets up to our draft bicycle network. So on that left-hand column, again, we've got that 18.8 miles of existing facilities. And in the proposed bicycle network, the goal is to get to about 25.1 miles. So a decent number of additional miles to add in for the proposed network. So 18 plus 25 will get you the total proposed network. So we're a little under halfway there. But what that indicates is that there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of improvements. But again, American Canyon's doing this investment and this work and this progress faster than any other jurisdiction in the county, so something to be thankful for there. I'll skip over this slide a little bit just to keep it in check in terms of time. But this is our kind of bike network broken down by classification type. I'm happy to go back and if you have questions. So we also prioritized a key number of miles within each community based in part on the size of the community, how much progress has been made in terms of advancing a low-stress bicycle network, and opportunities for prioritizing safety, equity, connectivity, and local community support for recommendations. So we have about 3.8 miles that we identified kind of as near-term priorities for American Canyon. On the pedestrian side, because again, this is an active transportation plan, so it's not just bikes, it's bikes, pedestrians, and anybody else who's getting around on, under their own power. We did comprehensive data collection. We identified those key destinations, the same ones that Commissioner Christian was asking about a little bit earlier, those transit stops, schools, parks, things like that. And then we looked at, within 500 feet of those locations, are there any gaps in the pedestrian network and the sidewalk network? And we wanted to prioritize completing one side of a street first, as opposed to kind of doing things piecemeal, because the fewer times you force a pedestrian to cross the street back and forth to access that sidewalk, the more likely people are going to walk. And also the less likely people are going to end up walking on the side of a street that doesn't have a sidewalk. So on the pedestrian network, and this graphic is a little bit hard to see on the screen, but the yellow, and this is an area of the city and unincorporated county within the city of Napa. The yellow on this map is existing sidewalks, and that red on that map is an example of a pedestrian sidewalk gap closure project. So in most places, we're prioritizing, again, one side of the street, and where those gaps are pretty small. There are locations where both sides of the street make sense to complete, particularly those higher speed or higher volume corridors where there's a lot more vehicle traffic, or where there are key destinations on both sides. So in this map example, this is Pueblo Avenue, kind of in the middle, that has those red lines on both sides there. And the reason that was prioritized on both sides is because there's an elementary school to the north and another elementary school to the south. So kids are going to be walking on both sides of that particular street. For American Canyon, we're looking at, on the sidewalk side, 108 miles of existing sidewalks, which is a lot, and only about 1.7 miles of gap closures. So relatively small number, but those small gap closures can make a big difference in terms of the walkability of our neighborhoods. And just here's a little bit of an example of where some of those gap closures are located in American Canyon. And we can go back to this slide if you'd like to look at it in more detail. So I'll wrap up by saying that this plan is currently in its draft form. We have a 28-day public comment period that opened on February 18th, closes on March 18th. At the same time, we're doing review with local jurisdiction staff to identify, did we get anything wrong? Do we need to make little changes? Did we have typos or errors on tables and things like that that we can clean up? The plan will be proposed to the NVTA Board of Directors for adoption on March 18th, and then it'll go to local jurisdictions for their own adoption process. So this meeting is that first step of 4 meetings that'll have public review by the City of American Canyon. So there's OSATs, Parks and Community Services, Planning Commission, and then City Council review and hopefully adoption in mid-May. So with that, I'll say we still have a few more days, about a week and a half or so, 2 weeks, until the close of the public comment period on the draft plan. So the next slide here has the URL, the website, for where you can review the full plan in detail, all the maps and all the charts and tables. You can also scan that QR code with your phone, and that'll open up that same website. We really encourage, any member of this commission or member of the public to provide those comments as soon as you can. Get them in if you can by the 18th so that we can incorporate those comments into a final plan prior to adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions folks might have.
Thank you. Chair Mattson, Commissioner Mattson.
Quick question for staff. So the April 1st PCS meeting is a joint meeting with us for the Parks Master Plan, right? So we're going to do both. That's fine. I'm just curious. And you guys don't know. Okay. You don't know. Okay.
Well, sorry, I wasn't aware that there was a joint meeting with Parks on that day.
Unless it's changed. That was a calendar that Ally put out in December of our meetings for the rest of the
We'll
year.
double check on that date.
But
yeah.
I don't think.
That's
I
your
don't know.
normal date.
Speaking for myself, I don't mind hearing it again.
Commissioner Christian.
Yeah, a few questions. What is the practical value of prioritization? So is that when the city agrees to the plan, they're adopting that recommendation to make these a priority?
Yeah, so prioritization can be thought of in kind of 2 separate ways. The first is, when we're looking at, let's see if I can find the slide here. So when we're looking, if you look at the bottom right corner of that table, we have 429 miles countywide of new proposed bicycle facilities in this plan. That's a big number. So the question then is, well, how do we decide what we want to do first, second, third? So we have to prioritize in some way. And we wanted to go through a prioritization process in this plan development to both assist Public Works and planning and other departments within each jurisdiction to say, you know what, these are some key criteria that we evaluated, and I'll try to go to that slide. Safety, equity, connectivity, that can give you a starting place in terms of what facilities, what corridors, what streets might be good to start with first. Now, that's one place to start with in terms of prioritization. The other is looking at what is the city already planning to do. The city has a 5-year paving plan, looking forward the next 5 years that various streets that are going to be paved, and so we also take that into consideration. But ultimately, what we want to be able to do is say, within that, whether it's 400 or within the city of American Canyon, a dozen or 2 dozen miles of streets that may have bike or pedestrian improvements, we still have to prioritize in some manner. And so this is really just a starting place for that prioritization process. And that's going to be an iterative process over the years based on what new revenue the city might be able to bring in terms of grant applications, other existing planned projects, whether it's the Highway 29 corridor project that Caltrans is leading through town, or a developer-led project that might complete a portion of a Class 1 or a Class 2 bike lane in front of a portion of a street. So all those things kind of muddy the waters a little bit in terms of exactly this is the priority and this is what's going to happen first, second, third. So really prioritization is a starting place to how do we tackle this big challenge in a reasonable kind of step-by-step process.
Yeah, I know the city's great with coming up with their own stuff, and it was the city that came up with that Class 1 on the north side of Green Island Road, which I don't know anyone was asking for that, but it's a great idea, so credit to the city. So this is more like a recommendation, and as you say, the start of the prioritization, and Public Works will look at this and then make a decision. And of the 3.18 it was in blue there, I forget the category, but it was projects near term. Mm-hmm. Do you know if the American Canyon Class 4 is included in that one? Is that?
Which Class 4?
It would
the American
be
Canyon Road? Class
yeah, American
4?
Canyon Road.
Yes. So that I can tell you, I don't have them all memorized,
Yeah.
but that one was one of the corridors that
But you got most of them memorized, Patrick.
Some of them. A little hard to memorize 400 miles of streets throughout the county, but yeah.
Yeah, and then the third one is, if people ask me for advice on purchasing an e-bike, I'm familiar with the 3 definitions. What I'm not sure is, are the 28 mile per hour, that would be the Class 3, allowed throughout Napa County on public
Roads, yes.
roads, yes, paths, shared use paths. I know it's not Newell, but Newell is not, in that. I was told it was state law that you couldn't kick the Class 3 bikes off like, let's say, a Vine Trail section, between Yountville and Napa.
I'll answer that offline, if that's okay. I want to double check my answer before I.
Okay, yeah, there's such a proliferation of bikes and all the different.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a nuanced question. So, and I don't think it's directly relevant necessarily to this plan, but we're happy to chat offline and give you an accurate answer once I have a chance to double check.
Great, yeah, because you don't want somebody purchasing a bike and then getting out on the road and someone say, oh, that's a Class 3, not a Class 2, I'm going to write you a ticket or take your bike or something like that. Okay, thank you.
Could you comment on maybe where the prioritization is for the Devlin Road?
I cannot. That might be a question that Director Smithies could
This is
answer in terms
county. It's county.
Oh, in terms of the county sections of Devlin. So I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but again, that's something that I could follow up with you offline about.
That's one of the main connectors between here and Napa.
Yeah,
It's
it
missing.
is.
Yeah.
But again, depending on exactly what portion of Devlin, and I would have to double check our maps to verify that.
Napa Sand to American Canyon.
So I will say that for
Downtown
those kinds of
Napa.
detailed questions, all that information is in various tables and charts in the plan. So I'll dig that up and follow up with you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are the questions that I was asking about access, is that all in that plan? Would I be able to look at Yountville and say, yeah, you can ride a Class 3 bike here?
No.
No, that's not in there.
That would not be. That's not within the scope of this plan.
Thanks.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
Please just introduce yourself for the record and for the audience watching at home.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kara Verner with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition, and I first want to thank Patrick and VTA for putting together such a wonderful plan. There's a lot of developments in this plan that weren't in the last one that are going to be really helpful, including that connectivity analysis, which is so fantastic. So first and foremost, thank you. Couple of things to think about as you look at the plan, at least from our perspective as the Bike Coalition, is that those segments that get ranked high in connectivity I just want to reiterate that it's not that those don't need attention, those locations, because one piece that's not connected can prevent someone from riding. So let's say there's like perfect connectivity except Highway 29. Well, a lot of parents aren't going to let their kids cross Highway 29. So full connectivity is really a great goal to get people riding and to be sure that they can. A little segment of that is near Donaldson Way Elementary School where there's no bike lane, and we really want to see that filled. That's one of the things that we let the city and NVTA know is a priority for us, as well as American Canyon Road. Especially the intersection with 29. And so I believe that's going to be made a study corridor, which is exciting because I know there's a lot of changes happening there, no longer roundabouts or whatnot. But we really think there's a number of things that can be done to make that a lot safer and crossable. And I think that's it. I thought I had one more thing, but I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak? Please raise your hand. We have no additional public comments.
Okay, public comment is closed. Any final commissioner comments? Okay.
Oh,
All right.
I noticed that Napa Bike Coalition had a representative at the last ATAC, Active Transportation Advisory Committee for NVTA, and they were making comments too. So I want to thank the Bike Coalition for making comments, and I'm sure you've delved deeply into this plan and made a lot of suggestions, and so that's very helpful to the community to have that level of oversight. And Patrick Ban was a former executive director of the Napa Bike Coalition, and he did the same thing. So thank you both.
Yes, thank you. Okay, moving on to fiscal year 2026-27 capital improvement program.
Good evening. Eric Almond-Smithies here, Public Works Director. Just presenting to you the 9 projects that we're planning for next year. I didn't provide a PowerPoint. I'm not sure if you guys got one last year, but I can run through each of these projects if you don't mind, just to run through them. As you know, we've been very successful with the Transportation for Clean Air funding that's passed through the Air Board to Napa Valley Transportation Authority, and we've been successful in implementing level 2 chargers in the past 3 years. We were successful again. We're going to get another $200,000 next fiscal year. I think they gave us actually $30,000 because there was money left on the table, but likely to deploy 2 additional solar chargers. One, as you may have seen in December, that was $100,000 we got this year, went to Newell Open Space. And the 2 new ones, we may go down to the new Ecology Center and or at Wetlands, at least one at Wetlands Edge, and we'll figure out the other one if it can't go to the Ecology Center yet. But just great to have those opportunities to deploy solar chargers where we don't necessarily have power. And then the next project is exciting, the Wetlands Restoration and Public Access Project. This is being built upon the Wetland Restoration Plan that was adopted by City Council in May of 2024. We were successful in getting a $1.2 million grant this past year, and that will be the majority of the funding going towards consulting firm. We just closed the request for proposals last week. Even though we had over 50 people interested in the project, we only had 2 firms submit, and I won't say who we selected just yet, but we're very excited about getting that project started, hopefully going to council for award in April, pending the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority concurring with our selection of consultant and bringing it back to council for award. This will be bringing 30 and 60% design plans and environmental CEQA, NEPA I don't think, not NEPA, but CEQA, and permitting drafts to the regulatory agencies for the new kayak launch planned near the Ecology Center or access from the Ecology Center, the North Slough permanent either culvert bridge or box culvert type of bridge between the bisector of the landfill and the current trail, as well as sea level rise, raising the trails along the whole corridor within the city's boundaries. So very exciting. It's all synergy with that project with also hopefully the grant we get for sea level rise, but that's not on here because that'll be a planning grant. But hopefully we get notice on that soon from the Ocean Preservation Council, whether we're successful or not.
Do
In
we know-
addition, go ahead.
Did they announce when they're going to be saying if we want it?
They just submitted, this is very, I go a little bit off topic, but it's unusual. Certain grant programs give you follow-up questions. So we're on our second round of follow-up questions as we have sister applications in with the County of Napa. We went separate applications on it because we were a little bit more ahead of our grant application, as well as we're a little ahead of the game with marking the boxes because of our adopted wetlands restoration plan. We have quite a few boxes already checked for meeting BCDC's requirements by 2032. So we're a little ahead of the game. So going concurrently with the county, maybe having a shared TAC. That's one of the questions they asked. How are we going to have a technical advisory council that meet so we're not duplicating efforts so close to each other? I think there's been some of the comments from public as far as, we're close to the Vallejo, why aren't we all doing it together? It's because every agency, in partnerships, it's just different timing. And, but we'll work with the county on how we work on that so it's not draining everybody of the resources and time having duplicate meetings since we are so close. And so. And the Green Island Road reconstruction and widening, as you know, it's underway. The last part is the main part, which is Green Island Road. They're working on the utilities there right now, so as far as storm drainage and other conflicts that were not picked up in our initial plans. It is an old county road that the city annexed in as a city road, and there was things underground that were not anticipated. So they're dealing with those conflicts, working with them. We had, I think the water crew was there coming up this last weekend. The water crew was out there exercising valves and other work for the storm drain that's going in before they can actually go back out there and pave. But the anticipation is that part of the project will be done in August. Meanwhile, the Green Island Road Class 1 trail, just go that, jumping down to item 7, is anticipated to go out to bid either April, May, and then line up, hopefully construction start while O.C. Jones, who's the contractor on Green Island Road, is winding down and almost done with the project for the road construction and get in there and do the Class 1 trail. The Melvin sidewalk and storm drainage improvements, if you haven't been on Melvin Road, there is a speed table being implemented now. The contractor's back on site. They have the centers curing of that raised speed table. Then they'll do another segment, and then the following segment to have a complete speed table similar to what you see on Rolling Hills Drive and or Marcus Road and Watson Ranch. And then the speed humps that will go between just before Poco and after Poco. So it'll be 3 nice speed humps to slow down traffic along there, nice traffic calming. The Rancho Del Mar Phase 2 paving utility improvements, unfortunately, we're not able to kick off design because we had a big construction and design load already on us with project constraints, but that will be hopefully kicking off next year. And then the high strength waste project, we are adding that as a CIP to the city. This is about taking our industrial waste such as Mazetta, Barry Chabalot chocolate. When I heard high strength waste in the past, I was like, what is that? And I never thought it was food product. Wines, beer, all that kind of high strength waste that's not your typical flushing of the toilet, and takes a higher degree of pre-treatment and setting it down to flush, sending down the flow to line. But the beauty is we're going to start that project. We're going to go out to RFQ. We're going to have an update going to council later in April, and then anticipate going to an RFQ late spring, early summer, that by the next fiscal year we'll be able to award it and see who we get to help us deliver a project, or at least get a feasibility design forward, whether it's feasible or non-feasible, and start design. It'd be huge for our district, and not only climate friendly, but in the long run, an economic developer for a big economic boon for the city. Not the city, and also the nearby folks that are taking all their high strength waste to East Bay Mud, so.
What is the plan for the biosolids coming out of that?
Idea is Class A biosolids.
Awesome.
And maybe we could partner with our neighbors there on Devlin, the transfer station, but we'll see. There's
Some money,
talks, there's
too.
all, yeah, it'd be great. And then the last one is the recycled water fill station. I am happy to hear we're almost 100% out of the former corp yard at 205 Wetlands. Recycled water fill stations will be relocated there. Staff has been practicing with the automated credit card slot reader or the card reader at the water reclamation facility currently to make sure it works. And then so when we go live with it, we're going to relocate that down to the 205 Wetlands address, and residents, and I believe potentially small commercial users can go down there and load up with recycled water. And it may be right at the end of the fiscal year or this fiscal year and or beginning of the next, but we're getting there on it. We just have to finally, the last bit is curing the concrete at the city's new corp yard at Napa Junction so we can demolish the old material bins that are actually in the way of where the permanent recycled water station is going to go in. And I skipped a project here, didn't I? There was an ad here, Wetlands Edge parking lot expansion. This would be on the north side of Wetlands Edge Park, part of Clark Ranch. And after speaking with Mr. Band earlier about the lack of a Class 1 separation on the trail there, everyone uses the road as a trail, but it's still an active road to the landfill and the parking lot at Wetlands Edge for the trail, that perhaps we need to study that corridor, the city study that corridor, and see what would be the ideal situation for a Class 1 to keep, the conflict from bicyclists and walkers from people circulating in that parking lot currently. So maybe we pause on, this is a very preliminary, get out in front of you guys project list. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have there been any incidents between bikes and pedestrians along the road that you're talking about?
Not that we're aware of. It's just a long-term planning effort as the use gets bigger. Now we have a brand new park out there as far as the outdoor pavilion,
Yeah.
an active programmable space. Before you just had trails, but now you have a more programmable space, maybe events there, so the circulation may change.
We advocated for that public access years ago, so I'm always curious how it's going, and it seemed to me it's going pretty well.
Planning for the future, not reactive, right?
And you mentioned that the Class 1 may go out to bid April, May, and hopefully it would be done as O.C. Jones was winding down. But I don't know when O.C. Jones is winding down. Is that later that year, or is that next year? How long will it take?
They're supposed to, the plan is that they'll be completed by August of this year. So
O.C.
while
Jones.
they're winding down, we can start construction, because we don't want to be on top of each other out there.
Yeah, unless you had the same contractor, if you could have gotten that, yeah. But so the construction, if it goes to bid in April, May, the construction could start in summer.
Yes.
That's good news. Thank you. Oh, one last. They're doing a lot of work on the south side of the road. They've got, you've got the concrete, the barriers, and I see a lot of dirt dug up on the south side of Green Island Road. Is that where the utilities are going? I'm just curious.
There are
Is that why
some
they're doing
utilities.
that?
There's been some conflicts with the storm drain that's going in, the gravity line. So
Okay.
you have to get below other utilities or have them raised up. So
Okay.
if folks that don't recall, it's widening.
Yeah.
We're widening Green Island Road. So you have to extend utilities and relocate some utilities that are in there.
And that's a place where it was pretty narrow anyway. So yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because all the overhead utilities went on the north side in the planned space where the trail is going to be.
And
All-
will there
all of
be?
the- Sorry, all the utilities are underground now, or they're going to be, right?
Have you not driven out there?
No, I haven't. I
So
need to,
the
huh?
overhead power lines were underground a year and a half ago.
Oh my gosh. Well,
And that's
but
why we were
everything
waiting
is-
to start the paving project, because we had to phase it. You had to wait till PG&E, AT&T topped and removed all their lines. Cablecom jumped the gun, and then they cut through lines because they put them in there and not told anyone. It was a great project last year, and the last 2 years, but we had to wait to start the then road widening reconstruction. So, and Ideally, we were going to put the Class 1 trail with the project, but Caltrans was delayed. We had to, for those who don't want to know, it was long, a little off topic, but we had to go through a whole separate NEPA process with Caltrans for the federal funding for the Class 1 trail. We'd already gone through it for the entire project with the Economic Development Administration, but then we had to do it all over again with Caltrans, and that took every 2 years, every bit of it 2 years, because we had to start all over with our tribal consultation and making sure that we're meeting all the National Environmental Protection Act requirements.
I'm good, thanks.
Did you encounter very much groundwater out there on Green Island Road
Not that I'm aware
as
of.
an issue?
We had some issues around Mazzetta and Jim Oswald that we were not anticipating, but that was, that has to do with geotechnical and not geotechnical studies, and not, maybe you're only as good as where your last core was. So maybe if we had done additional coring samples out there in the existing pavement, for those who don't know, it's sampling of your structure and your underground of your roadways. And sometimes you hit a great spot where you think, wow, it's solid, and then it's soft the next step over. Or it could be solid 1 inch over in some cases. So we hit some soft spots on Oswald and Mazzetta Court. Hopefully no more.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering if any of the projects are in correspondence with the 2030 net zero deadline outlined in the general plan. And especially that first one regarding transportation and the grant for solar chargers. They sound super exciting, but I was just wondering if these are like specific efforts taken toward the deadline.
These are just efforts of finding funding sources and implementing what we can when we can.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? No? Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Do we have any management staff oral reports?
Oh, wait, public comment.
Oh, public comment. Oh my gosh. Thank you. And she's back.
Hello, Kerrigan. I just wanted to say that one of the things I noticed about the bike-friendly communities feedback and report card was that it really encouraged adding bike parking where possible. And so, keeping that on your minds at all times and asking the city to do the same. I haven't reviewed the designs for these projects, but would there be any place where it would be appropriate and an opportunity to add APBP compliant bike parking, because it's one of the least expensive things that you can do, and clearly some low-hanging fruit in terms of increasing that score. And I know we chatted about it some in one of the Wetlands Edge Park projects, but that's in, and I know there was some that was going to be added, but just kind of always thinking about, maybe this is a spot, or this could be a spot where we throw in a rack here and there. Yeah. So just trying to keep that top of mind, because I think that's an easy one that'll really pump up your score and make you beat Napa next time.
Yes, thank you. Is there any bike parking being incorporated in the Wetlands Edge parking lot expansion project?
Well, that one's probably going to be tabled for now, but definitely would be the other side of the street. And we did get a bicycle repair kit donated from our local bicycle shop at the Wetlands Edge. And so that probably more a Parks Commission type of meeting, because those are named places, and these are transit areas, not transit, but transportation corridors. But definitely, that's been on our list since the beginning, because I thank you for bringing that up. And it's also included as part of the Parks Plan, I believe, master plan. So thank you for continuing to bring that up, because it has been overlooked in the past, like Newell Open Space and some of the other spots, like where are the bicycle racks? And I forgot to mention the Class 2, important Class 2 on Donaldson Way. That segment is part of the Rancho Del Mar Phase 2. It just happened to get omitted on the current draft that's out, but it was caught internally and by MBTA and Napa Valley Bike Coalition that little segment there between Amarillo and Rio Del Mar, that was just a miss, and that's going to be part of the design of the Rancho Del Mar Phase 2 project.
Nice. Any other public comment?
Is there anyone online that would like to speak? We have no additional public comments.
Okay, thank you. Public comments closed. Any final commissioner comments? No. Okay, is there a management staff oral report? No.
Well, Chair McClendon Horner, this is Brent Cooper. I have a brief update for you. At the Planning Commission meeting last week, we presented the annual general plan report. And you might recall when we were going through the hearings that we had carved out sustainability policies in the general plan. And the report does include a section that shows what actions the city has taken over the last year to help fulfill those sustainable policies. I know that your schedule here is a little busy, but we will have the presentation again at the next city council meeting, and we'll have it online, so you'll be able to see it for yourself.
Thank you. All right, well, this meeting is adjourned at 7:25.